those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then 359, now 360 is Regions Bank, $750 for our bond fee.
I move we approve, claim 360 for Regions in the amount of $750.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now 358 is Move Over Outfitters.
Motion to approve.
So the question is, so on this, the amount that we could approve with the amount in the line is $8,624.75. Is that correct? Okay, so that's the amount that we had to approve with our current funds.
So, do you think we should bump it to?
Well, we can't bump it
Okay.
without a transfer, so,
Okay.
I mean, I think from a, yeah, I mean, we can definitely pay this, and then the sheriff has funds that he can use to do out of commissary or any of the other funds that he has available to cover the balance. So we're paying $8,624.75 to Move Over Outfitters invoice. Motion by Paul Ryder, second by Jeff Bagley. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
How much was that, Clint?
$8,624.75.
Josh, how much of that is left over?
$1,200.
$32.25.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that gets us through our business. Need a motion to approve the financial report, or does anyone have any questions on the financial reports?
I really haven't had a chance to go through it.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Paul Ryder to approve the financial report. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bill Brown. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion. Jack Baker abstaining. Motion carries. Okay. This is through our normal business. And then Mr. Polar, can you give us some updates, please?
Brian Polar, HWC Engineering. So they're getting close to wrapping up on 421. It's still kind of a mess, but they're getting there. There's some questions on the pavement markings. It's so late in the season, they can't just put down the temporary pavement markings. See what happens to the markings. Right now, they're all peeling out. So they're trying to put some the heat applied pavement markings to last in the winter to when they come back and do the milling surface. I don't have a good number on where they are budget-wise. I should have that Monday. I'm just trying to get it for today to kind of see where they were. Through the invoice you approved, they billed about $500,000. Their contract's $734, around $800,000. So I think we're going to save some money, but obviously we kind of ran over on some other things. We're trying to figure out what that is. We've used all our fees in our contracts. We're over pretty significantly. So next meeting I'll probably be coming back asking for some additional money for our fees. Kind of figure out where we are contract wise and if we save any money anywhere to kind of offset that. So, any questions?
How many days or how far do you think it is away from being finished?
It'll be done next week.
This week?
Next week. Yeah.
Is that no orange cones done?
Huh?
No orange cones done? Like gun done? Like,
I'm hoping.
okay. We'll write that down.
This thing on over. We did have, I think when NIPSCO came in, never ending NIPSCO, but I think when they put in their line, they regraded some ditch lines, so now what we thought, where things were gonna drain, we're gonna have to do some additional work to get a culvert on the east side to drain. Also get that work done.
Thank you.
Now, the additional, we approved earlier, that 133, because of the utility.
So that, there was,
Or is, are we going to be looking at possibly trying to get NIPSCO or whatever to?
You gotta get a number first, and
Okay.
quantifying the actual overage.
Yeah. That's, I was just,
Do you think that sometime in the next week or two, you'll have those numbers collected, Brian?
yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. There were two things, that there was some related to NIPSCO, and then some was related to, the pavement design, which we received from NDOT. It didn't take into account any, soil stabilization or anything like that, so that added some money too. Which, if they had the correct payment design, we would have to pay anyway, so it's just added by change order, so that 134 was a combination
in
of.
combination with the two.
Yeah,
Yeah, for some reason, I was thinking that,
I think it had a lot
the
more. to do with it.
stabilization, I thought, because of the line not being as far away, is what was drawing that in, but you're saying part of it was.
Some of that was thought to be, but then NIPSCO actually came back and actually moved it, and so it was further away than where it was going, but they still needed some sort of stabilization. They would have had to do that anyway if they had done proper payments.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brian? All right, next item on the agenda is the shell building for the RDC business, or the EDC business park. Barry?
Before we get into that, I know that Jay Bush is absent tonight, so we need a temporary treasurer.
Oh. I think you're about to be helped.
I nominate Chris.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to make Krista Watson treasurer for the day. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations. You want to get signatures on it, or you want to do those again?
I'll get signatures to Krista after the meeting.
Okay, just a recap on the shell building, the structure, and what, Baker Tilly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is there anything else that you need?
No.
I'm just kinda guessing if you're looking at me at this point. The structure of the arrangement with, the contractor is that, we would be the body or providing the funding for the project. The Economic Development Corporation would be the owner of the project and would, have a contractual relationship with us on sale of the project to pay off any debt that is in there, and that debt upon the time of the sale. So, the only commitment that the contractor needs at this time is for the RDC, our body, to approve $50,000 to do initial engineering on the project and give conceptual drawings back to us, which, either RDC or the EDC would be the owner of that property. And so, we've all received the financial information in terms of, what the costs are associated with that. Unfortunately, I had to leave last month early because get my other eye operated on. So, I talked to Michelle. Michelle is in favor of the project, but unfortunately, mother-in-law passed away, so she couldn't be here today. That is the action that this body needs to take today if we are to move forward on the project. And what that will do is allow EDC to begin negotiations on final pricing and all kinds of timelines and things of that nature. But we would be committed to the $50,000 for engineering. At the time when they complete their negotiation, they would bring that back to us, and we would, go forward with the financing model that we deemed appropriate.
Excuse me, but we can approve this $50,000, but that is not the final approval when we go ahead of this.
That's correct. All we're really
We're paying for the.
pre-engineering.
If I understand, they're gonna spend like $120 to do the engineering, but they're only charging us $50.
Right.
You know, I'm really concerned about the county having enough money with the ad lib trial, everything that we're doing, and, you know, the jail project and all that, I'm just really, concerned. I'd like to see it tabled personally.
I'm on the fence about it. I don't know whether, you know, the RDC actually has the funds. I mean, we've got the county wanting us to help with the utilities out to there. That's gonna be a chunk of money. We've got the city wanting us to spend almost 13 million on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. And based on that report, if I understand it right, that was only leaving us, what, 300-some thousand a year
That's correct. And cash flow.
in cash flow
So, I mean,
after.
yeah, I mean, this
after that.
goes right to the question, like, I mean, the project that was presented to us, the water project, we can't pay for. I mean,
Yeah.
the scope of the project as it was presented, our portion would be more than our borrowing capacity.
Yeah.
Period. Like, if we had no other debt obligations. So, I mean, that's one thing. This project, from my perspective, is all about prioritization. Or, I mean, the question is about prioritization, right? The current TIF as it exists today ends in 11 years.
Right.
So that revenue stream will be gone. In terms of the number one priority has to be, getting new projects to continue to grow. And so the question is, if we have a known quantity of money that we will accumulate between now and the end of the current TIF, what is the highest and best use of that to create a new revenue stream that will be able to pay for projects like the water project? Because if we do nothing, and all we did was accumulate that money for the next 11 years, we wouldn't have enough money to pay for the water project. And in 11 years, it would be much more expensive. So, what investments do you make today to create those incomes that we will need 5 or 10 years down the road? And specifically to Abby and Libby, there are defined uses for the monies that we have, right? It would be a pretty big stretch for us to look at,
Yeah.
some of the expenses that the county is incurring using RDC funds to pay for those. So, to circle back to the original, reason that the Shell building came to be, a conversation. The EDC was given the authority to market, an existing building in the community. And that existing building was very attractive to a company, and only 60 to 90 days after it went on the market, as a potential leased space, a very significant economic development project came, and we were finalists and were the walkaway favorites to get it. And that project would have been approximately $100 million of investment in the community, and which is an equivalent cash flow to Indiana Factories. But when that deal fell apart because the owner of the building withdrew they're offering the EDC to take it to market and actually lease it, the deal expired and just completely went away. So, that was what precipitated this conversation, to say, we're committed to putting an asset out there of equivalent like kind of quality that will attract that next $50 or $100 million investment in the community that is the next 20 or so years of TIF revenue that will be able to make the investments like, like the mayor's asking for. It gives us long-term lending capability. And that just can't be done by any other means as I see it today. There's only one way to create new long-term revenue streams in the TIF district, and that's new projects, new significant projects.
Josh, question on that. So if we, so there's, that's the only mechanism you're saying that there is to create these revenue generators? I mean, the commissioners couldn't decide to try to draw in a business, and, I mean, I just wanna make sure that.
Well, what I'm saying is, so if we landed a $1 billion company into this community, $1 billion investment, and they were not in the TIF district, the county would not see an additional nickel in tax revenue, other than the people that live there to work there, live here and work there. And that does not count the people that live outside of this county and come into the county to work in a facility like that. Only means of new tax revenue are new businesses in the TIF district. So that creates new revenue.
So that money's not going to the county, it's, if we don't get it into a TIF district, it's going,
So, in general, the way that taxes work is we have a levy. It's the maximum amount the county can collect in tax revenue, property tax income revenue, however you want to call it. So that formula for that number is the rate, the property tax rate times the amount of assessed value equals the total amount. So whether our current assessed value is like 1.4 billion, if that assessed value goes to 2.4 billion, we still get the same amount of tax revenue.
the percent.
The total number. That $3.7 million that we collect in property tax revenue never changes. So the only thing that it does is affect rate. And we already have some of the lowest tax rates in the state of Indiana. In 11 years, the entire 70 or $100 million of Indiana Packers were brought on the county tax rolls. So, I mean, the county's assessed value will continue to grow and maintain stable taxation. But new growth that creates jobs and opportunity and income for the community only comes from incremental tax growth. And so, like, that's the rules. So, as the state of Indiana has made them, that's the rules that we have to play by for economic growth.
So they're also talking about, a much bigger sewer treatment plant,
Mhm.
city. And, I mean, the last meeting we had, we discussed, where's all the money gonna come from? Do you feel like we're gonna have enough money? I mean, to do both?
There's, maybe, but if we don't get new opportunities, we will never have enough money. Because we can't even issue a 20-year bond right now, because we don't have 20 years of tax revenue. So, our tax, the incremental funds, tax revenue that we collect as an entity end in 11 years. So, that's why we have to build new revenue streams, new opportunities, new businesses landing here to be able to fund those types of operations. Now, I totally agree, and I'm all ears, listening to, my time that I spoke with BFNS last week. Like, I wanna hear how we right-size the sewage treatment plant to facilitate the 700,000 gallons that they need of extra effluent. And I'm happy to have that conversation. There is existing excess capacity today that we have for economic development and would satisfy, many years of of growth, for residential growth in the city of Delphi. But, unless we get another, and it doesn't have to be another Indiana Packers, I mean, that's, you know, the thing that I'm trying to stress is, like, the business that we almost had, I mean, we should have had, was only like a 25,000 or 30,000 square foot building. It's $100 million investment of business personal property in that, you know, relatively small building, and which would have generated, you know, well over $1 million a year in incremental funding. So, you know, you take an opportunity like we have with the Shell building, and then you make that investment, get that income stream, possibly do it again, and, you know, which has been kind of proven in White County is what they've done. They've made the investment, flipped, did it again, reinvested the money, and it just kept going. And, you can create an income stream that could sustain growth in the city of Delphi for a long time. But if we just stop today, we're done. Yeah, Mayor?
Yeah, John, so if the Shell building is put up out at the Heartland Industrial Park, does that become another allocation area then for the?
It would, in the event, yeah,
Assuming.
when a business went in, it would be a new allocation area.
Okay.
And there's a
So
number
this
of ways that
doesn't-
those are facilitated, and we've talked at length with Baker Tilly and Farms.
Right, and if I'm understanding this discussion, this does not have to be an either or, it cannot be an either or discussion. You know, we do need to have the ability to attract an industry here,
Yeah,
and we have to fund a wastewater treatment plant expansion to be able to provide services to that. So this is not an either or, it's looking ahead and seeing how we can do
yeah, absolutely.
do all of these things. So,
Yeah.
You know, I think if we get into this, we either do this or we do that, we're looking at it in the wrong way, and I think that's what you're trying to tell us as well. We have to be able to look at this as an entirety, not
Yeah.
as one project versus another project.
We just gotta make the finances work.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
growth makes that really easy.
Makes it happen.
Yeah, and without the growth, we just don't have the income streams, the revenue streams to facilitate that.
I think the other thing to point out is the class of building we're talking about is, there's not much surplus on the market right now. There's, 6, 7 buildings in the state of Indiana where they could move right into. And that's one of the reasons that company was looking at the building already out there, is they wanted to get up, going now. They aren't really interested right now in greenfield. Okay, here it is, okay, in 18 months, 20 months, no. The companies want to come in, they put the big bucks down, and they want a quick return. As Josh was talking about, you look at the long term, what are we gonna do for money in the future? It's just like savings for a retirement account. You put your money in now, so you have it available later.
Yeah, and, I mean, some of the other things you said, like the $1 million, or it's about 1.1 million for the sewer line to go to the jail. We have that in cash reserves right now that we can pay for. And so there's a lot of the major things that we've discussed for the last 2 years. Thanks, Brian. Yeah. A lot of the major projects that we've discussed, I mean, this, again, is not an either or. We have the resources to do this. It's just building the chronological order of events here that we have to kind of look at to make sure that we grow the right way. There's a lot riding on. This entity does a lot of good. I mean, look at the fire engines and police vehicles and radio towers and all the kinds of things that this has. When this expires, all of those things expire. or the ability to do any of those things is challenged. So, that's why I think it's incredibly important for us to look to the future and say, you know, what gives us the best odds of growing the pie the fastest? Because all of it's important, we just gotta make sure that we build a machine that does it. That's my 2 cents.
Josh, I think you did a wonderful job of explaining. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
I guess I'll make a motion that we move ahead with the $50,000 preliminary engineering, whatever.
Okay. A motion by Jack Bagley, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bill Brown. Any future or further discussion?
I'll just say, right now, as far as the building itself, I am still on the fence about that. But I think at least that gets the next step going, and we can figure out from there. But, I'm just not sure I wanna see us get in the building yet.
Well,
You know, so, I mean, if we can build it and turn it quickly, that would be
yeah.
great.
That's what every developer
Yeah,
wants.
Yeah,
to do.
We all
exactly,
agree on
exactly.
that.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
well, I think I agree, I mean, that's the risk, and we have to look at it with eyes wide open. But, you know, I think recent findings are indicating that having an asset like that has really done well in terms of looking at it, but I think, I agree with you, and this keeps us going. The most important thing from my perspective is that it moves ahead, because when we sit here and projects languish, you know, we learned this at the jail, and we learned it other places, well, not only the cost of it, but like, they drag out for months and months and months, because of what you're depending on third parties to do, and then, you know, if you're 6 months down the road, and that's 6 months that we don't have, so.
Is that what happened to our industry we were looking at, is we weren't agile enough and already on the track to get it built before they had to find something?
Well, so they left Indiana because they couldn't find the asset that they needed. That one specifically, we had a commitment, not a contractual commitment, a verbal commitment from the building owner to say, you can take our building to market. And within 60 days, we had a lead, and that lead came to fruition very quickly, less than 30 days. So from the time they said, we have your commitment, until we were showing them the building, less than 90 days. So, you know,
They pulled the building out
But-
from underneath us,
yeah,
so it wasn't to be sold anymore.
right. That's what sent it. It wasn't anything that we did, it was just the building owner refused to sell it. When it came time to, or excuse me, they refused to lease it when it came time to sign the deal. So that's why us controlling the asset, the building, is rock solid, that, you know, we're gonna get back out on it. Okay, so, the motion.
I just like, this isn't the first time this happened to us.
Yeah,
I mean, years ago, we had Nucor Steel wanting to build out here, and it would have been vastly more of a plant than Packers. But we couldn't put it all together fast enough, and we didn't get enough electricity for them. So, it wound up in Oregon, is where it went to, because Indiana couldn't handle it. And we had that buttoned right up, I mean, they were ready to sign on the line. And we just couldn't put it together. So, I, came into the meeting very questionable about whether we could afford this building or not. The question is, can we afford not to have it?
all right. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye.
What are we voting on
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Unanimous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor, do you have any other updates?
Not really, I did have a conversation with IPC today, and, they need a letter from us outlining all the different ways in which they can, the timeline for payment, for the phase one and then for phase two, and so we'll have that in the works for them, and, they're basically on board with moving forward, certainly with phase one, and, outlining the phase two as well, so that was good news. Their board met and had a few additional questions, which we are responding to, and, then it goes back to their board, and we are, just as an update on where we are in that process for phase one, the, RFP has been advertised this week in the, Comet. I think it's in next week's paper as well, and then the date for, receiving proposals is January 16. So, early next year, we'll, begin, those, final price negotiations for the clarifier project, and it is a 2023 construction project, so, that will, of course, get us the redundancy, not increase our capacity, but, as I shared this morning, we are running into issues, more frequently, so the more that we can do on that end is pretty critical, so. That's about it, thanks.
So, what's his name, John Brand, is that right?
Yes.
From, and I apologize again for having to leave abruptly last week, but, my question that I posed to him, and I didn't really get an answer for, is, do we need to have a separate conversation about how we build the capacity just for Packers, the additional is it 7 or 500,000 that they want?
So,
It is so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, do we need to have, where does that conversation stand, and do we need to be a party to that conversation?
You could certainly have that conversation, but the problem is that as you're doing our wastewater treatment plant is 30 years old. So if we increase it enough to do 700,000, and then we exceed that in another 5 years, then our cost for getting, more increased capacity is, going to be, even more than it would be today, obviously, so, if we can solve any of Packers' needs and not solve needs for perhaps another food processor or another type of industry that might locate in the Shell building, then, we're still cutting ourselves short for the future. And, the other capacity elements included, of course, residential, but also to the northeast, the corridor out there by the Andersons and, 218. So, I think we have to look at all of those needs, and, could we do less than doubling? Yes, we could, but is it smart to do that, given how long this process is? If we said yes today, we're still 3 to 5 years out from having that increased capacity, so, we'll always be playing catch-up unless we, take the leap forward and, get ourselves in position for growth for another, 15, 20, 30 years.
Okay, so, I just wanted to,
We can certainly
make
have
sure
that
that we're
conversation.
known that, we're eager to continue the conversation, at some scalable figure, or within the constraints that we currently have. All right, any other business for the commission?
Any other business?
For us?
Well, I wanted to clarify, you said that, the, revenue
motion to adjourn. Paul Ryder, seconded by Bill Brown. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, those same sign. Motion carries.
So now that the meeting is over, can I ask another question, about the TIF? And that is, so if Indiana Packers, does a major expansion, is there a way to capture that as a separate allocation so that the IPC TIF, in essence, starts over? Has that question been asked, or do you know?
Yes, there, it depends.
Of course.
There's,
Would it require
there-
a new plant, to make that, or?
well,
Just a-
it's more about the timing, how and when the assessed value comes into the district. So, there's lots of different ways to carve it up. If it's new investment as of a certain date, it is possible, but we'd have to look at everything kind of case by case. For the future of it, I mean, forever from now, it will look different than it has for the last 30 years, just because the state has changed the rules.
And continues to.
Yeah, so many times that, it's just different. So, I mean, it's just been very cut and dried for the last 30 years. This is the area, anything new in it creates an increment. Well, now they've said hands down, period, exclamation point, do not come back. It will end in 11 years. So then you have to start looking at, these individual projects, creating an allocation area for them, and then, kind of, it'll just look much different than it does, than it has, about how the increment will work. And then we have residential and all these other components that are also a patchwork that'll all work together. But the future looks different than today.
Are they looking at expansion? Is that the word on the?
They are looking to add jobs, and that will require expansion.
That's what we're looking for. Growth, growth, growth. Thank you, everybody.
The meeting that we allocated this, I thought turned out the numbers wrong. It was 160. So that's why this number is down to that.
All right, I'll take it back to Tobe, but
So,
this was a huge deal anyway, because I don't think we would have been able to
yeah, and
get the card.
as I was looking at things, all these invoices look like we got invoiced for the K-9 year, which probably had more of the outfitting equipment than what we